Did you know you can time travel? Bet you never thought you'd hear that in church, right? But you can time travel. As a matter of fact, not only can you time travel, you do. All the time. And I know some of you are thinking, yeah, sure, like metaphorically, yeah, sure. Like nostalgically, in our memories, we can go back in time. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about physically and literally time traveling. You see into the past all the time. For instance, every time you see the sun, every time you see sunlight, you are seeing something that happened 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. Because that's how long it takes light to travel 93 million miles from the sun to Earth. 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Every time you see the sunlight, you're seeing into the past. Now, when you see the stars at night, forget about it. The furthest star that can be seen with the human eye is in the constellation Cassiopeia. And this little star, this little speck of light, by the way, that speck of light, that star happens to be 100,000 times brighter than our own sun. But are you ready? That star, that little speck of light is 4,000 light years away from Earth. So when you see that little tiny speck of light, you are seeing something that happened when Abraham was still alive. Somebody ought to say, oh snap. Somebody ought to say, poof. So this morning, welcome, my fellow time travelers. Time can be a funny thing, depending on which side of it you're on. On our side, Ecclesiastes says, under the sun, on our side of time, where there is a time for every purpose under heaven, guess what? Time for us can be tyrannical. We are always aware of what time it is. What day it is, what year it is. We wear the time. It's on the oven. It's on the microwave. It's hanging on the wall. It's the first thing we see on our phones. It's the first thing. It's on the dashboard of our car. We set reminders. We set alarms. The time is the first thing we look for when we wake up in the morning. Deadlines, payment dates, due dates, remembering birthdays and anniversaries. They are all delineations of time. But on the other side of the sun, not under heaven, but in heaven, one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. Our God dwells outside of time. Time does not rule over him. He rules over time. Time does not confine the Lord. It serves him. And if he is Lord of time, if time is a tool in his hand to serve at his pleasure and for our good and his glory, then could God then accelerate times and seasons for you? The answer is an unequivocal yes. Sure, of course he could. And I believe he does according to his purpose. But then the opposite must be true as well. Could God then also equally extend times and seasons, delay things, maybe so that you avoid being in harm's way, so that you miss something that was aimed at you, so that you never even show up for the betrayal or the trap? God absolutely can suspend the laws of time because they don't apply to him, they respond to him. Time is at God's command. Not only can he extend time itself, but because he already has, as a matter of fact. We have evidence that God extends time. When he made the sun stand still for Joshua, the Lord caused a holy delay, a sacred suspension of time to give Joshua a more complete victory. God will push pause on time itself to give you a more complete victory. Time for you to appropriate what Jesus won at Calvary. Time to grow. Time for you to mature. Time for you to take by faith what God has given by grace so that what he has begun in you can be completed. So we have to ask the question, could it be that God delays things if he deems it for your good? And the answer again has to be an emphatic sure. Not only so that you avoid something, but so that you also receive something at the right time, at the appropriate time, not prematurely, not before it's time, not before you are ready. The vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry, wait for it. It will surely come, it will not tarry. God wants you to receive right on time when all the chess pieces are in place, when you're ready to receive. Which, as far as the main verse for our entire series is concerned, is once you have developed some grit, once you've developed some tenacity, once you've developed some patience and perseverance concentrated, for you have need of endurance so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. Open your Bible this morning to Daniel chapter 10. Daniel chapter 10. For those of you who can't find it yet, that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, Daniel. Page 857. Okay. What we're about to read about is an unveiling of a reality beyond this world. A reality that is from God's vantage point. A world that extends beyond this world. And exists behind this world. A world that really, really exists, that exists just as much, if not more so, than the world that we experience now, but it is a world that is imperceivable to us with our five senses. Before we even read a word from our main text this morning, I want you to know that you are invited, if not called, if not commanded, to see beyond what you can see with your physical eyes. And to give precedence to the unseen, the realm of the Spirit, because that is God's invitation to you to engage in the deeper realities of the kingdom of God. Ever feel like there's more? Like there's got to be more to this life. That's because there is. Infinitely and immeasurably more. We start to see it here in Daniel chapter 10. Let's begin in verse 1 where it says, "In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar." Stop right there for just a moment. Daniel gives us the background and the setting and the context. But a lot is being said if you tie it to the timeline of history. Daniel's name was changed from a Hebrew name, Daniel, which meant God is my judge, to Belteshazzar, a Babylonian name, which means protect the king. Which was Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar's way of saying to Daniel and his 3 other friends that we know as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it was his way of saying to Daniel, listen, you're not going to serve Elohim. You're not going to serve Yahweh. You're going to protect me. You're going to serve me. I'll be your judge. To which Daniel, in essence, responds not with his words, but with his actions, with his life. Really, he responds, oh yeah? Well, watch me. Watch how I walk in wisdom. Watch how I conduct myself. Watch how I set myself apart. Watch how I serve my God anyway. The Bible says that Daniel had an excellent spirit, a spirit of excellence. So not of taking shortcuts, not of the path of least resistance, not doing the least he could do, but Daniel was always going beyond what was required, beyond what was expected. Daniel was always doing the level best he could with what he had. He had an excellent spirit before God and man. But that name change from Daniel to Belteshazzar, it actually happened 70 years before what we're studying today. Since then, from chapter 1 to chapter 7, 70 years have gone by. 70 years of enemy occupation. 70 years of alienation and subjection and captivity. But when Cyrus became king of Persia, he released the Jews. The occupation was over. They were free. What Daniel had stood for and what Daniel had risked his life to pray for, what Daniel believed God for, after 70 years, it happened. But when they got back, everything was different. When they were released from captivity, other people still occupied their homes and their villages. They were not received well. That people did not wish them well. Everything had changed. Nothing seemed to work. Nothing seemed to fit. So this may not be the best analogy that I'll ever give, but I'm going to do it anyway. I watched the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson back after basically him being out for 2.5 years. I watched them get waxed by the Milwaukee Bucks on Thursday night. I mean, they got annihilated. They were decimated. The Warriors were down by 39 points at halftime. Now, I don't know if you know who Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are, or Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks are. And if you don't know, if you have no reference at all, just take a quick break and join us in just a minute. But like they got Klay back. They got Klay back. Something they'd been waiting for 2.5 years. Man, the reuniting of the Splash Brothers. 3-time NBA champions. It happened. Klay's back. And they got waxed. Ever get what you wanted? Like get what you prayed for? You landed your dream job, your dream position. You bought the house. You got what you wanted only to realize there was more that needed to be resolved. What you got wasn't necessarily what you really needed on a deeper level. It didn't do for you what you thought it would do for you. It didn't complete you. Ever get what you thought you really needed and still get waxed? You got what you wanted, but it didn't solve all your problems. That's Daniel. They've been released from captivity and there's still a mess. Some of us got saved, but some things are still a mess. You got released from captivity, but you're still immersed in some chaos. Not everybody's happy about your release. Not everybody's going to roll out the red carpet for the new you. The Lord opened your prison doors, but you still got to go home to mayhem. The Lord set you free, but work is still a dumpster fire. Good news is that God doesn't avoid our messes. I said God doesn't avoid our messes. He's not put off by turmoil or toxicity. He's not afraid to roll up his sleeves. He actually steps into our mess and makes a way where there was no way. Like if there's chaos in your life right now, help is on the way. If people are trying to prevent you from possessing what is rightfully yours, help is on the way. If someone's trying to stop you from receiving your restoration plus, help is on the way. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel. How many of you know there's a message in your mess, right? And there's a revelation in the wreckage. In the confusion and disappointment, God is trying to reveal something to you. When you've been freed from enemy captivity, when you've been rescued, when you've been saved, but you're still experiencing some new kind of opposition, watch. Daniel chapter 1, verse 1, the second half of the verse says, the message was true, but the appointed time was long. And he understood the message and had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came into my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Daniel was mourning, he was grieving. The situation was not what he had expected. Things were not right. There was still injustice and oppression, just in a different form. And the people of God were discouraged. Now, like, this is what we came back for? This is what we have to look forward to? This is what's become of our country and our communities? And so, instead of complaining, instead of bemoaning the situation and with never even entertaining the thought of blaming God, Daniel does not question God. He doesn't doubt. He does what he always does, and he gets laser focused on God. No pleasant food, no meat, no wine. He didn't anoint himself. That means that for 3 weeks he didn't even bathe. We are talking about radical, focused commitment. See, sometimes you have to go off the grid. I said sometimes you just have to go off the grid. Sometimes you have to shut off the phone, go off social media, power off all of your devices, go into your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who sees in secret, because he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High God shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. It's time to put first things first. I said it's time to put first things first and seek first the kingdom of God. Go to God first. Hey, before you take the Advil, before you fill the prescription, and we're not saying don't take the Advil, and we're not saying don't fill the prescription, definitely follow doctor's orders, but go to God first. Before you get everybody else's opinion, before everybody else weighs in, before everybody else is all up in your business, go to God first. Before you try to numb yourself, before you try to drown your sorrows only to find out that they swim, go to God first. Shut down the gaming console. Tell your friends you'll be unavailable for a little while, and get on your knees and fight. Everything else can wait. Petty preoccupations can wait. Superficial pursuits can wait. Being entertained can wait. Vanity and luxury, comfort and shiny objects can wait. You have to get yourself to a place where you say the immediate will not eclipse the ultimate. The hair on fire urgency of the moment will not override what is eternally important. You got to get to the place where you say, listen, I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to get in my flesh. I'm going to put on Holy Ghost blinders and seek God. Daniel did it for 3 whole weeks. He prioritized, he prayed, he abstained, he focused on the Lord, he sought the Lord, he inquired of the Lord, he petitioned the Lord. I'm sure there were times where Daniel wept before the Lord, and other times where he shouted. There were times that he got on his face in worship. There are other times I'm sure he lifted his hands in praise. Other times he was just silent, listening for the voice of God. Did it for 3 whole weeks. I don't know if you saw it, but Daniel thought it was important to tell us twice in one sentence, I did it for 3 whole weeks. 21 days. Now hold on to that thought for just a moment. Pick up the story with me in verse 4. Now, on the 24th day of the first month, as I was by the side of the great river, that is the Tigris, I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man, clothed in linen, whose waist was girded with the gold of Uphaz. His body was like beryl, his face like the appearance of lightning, his eyes like torches of fire, his arms and feet like burnished bronze in color, and the sound of his words like the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great terror fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore, I was left alone when I saw this great vision, and no strength remained in me, for my vigor was turned into frailty. frailty, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the sounds of his words, and while I heard the sound of his word, I was in a deep sleep on my face, with my face to the ground. First, understand who this is in the vision. If you read the description in Revelation of the glorified Christ, it is almost identical. And that's because the glorified Lamb of Revelation is the pre-incarnate Christ of Daniel. This is an appearance of the Son of God before the days of his flesh. And this is not nearly the first time that's happened. How many of you know Jesus is all over the Old Testament? He is the Word at creation. He's the smoking oven and the burning torch that came to Abraham. He wrestled with Jacob at the ford of Jabbok. He is the voice in Moses' burning bush. He is the pillar of cloud by day. He is the fire by night. He shows up as the commander of the armies of the Lord of hosts to Joshua. He surprises Gideon, who's threshing wheat in a wine press. He shows up time and time again as the angel of the Lord. And now the pre-incarnate Christ appears to 85-year-old Daniel. And Daniel is terrified by the visitation. Notice how many times fear and terror are mentioned in this short passage. Why? Because it's vital. The scriptures and this story in particular are beckoning you to redirect your fear. Don't fear the situation. Don't fear the circumstance. Don't fear the adversity. Don't fear people who want to squat on what God gave you. You don't have to run and hide. You don't have to cower or be intimidated. Redirect your fear to the only one who is worthy of being feared. And not only is he worthy of being feared, but he's the only one worthy of your trust. Now, when we talk about the fear of the Lord, it is always important to qualify and to clarify that the fear of the Lord is not being afraid of the Lord. It is reverential respect of the Lord. The fear of the Lord, ready, is to be in awe of the Lord. And when he shows up with a message or with a divine revelation, an impartation of his wisdom, when he gives you vision, you ought to be in awe. That God would call you, that God would choose you, that God would anoint you, that God would save you, that God would use you. You ought to be in awe. No strength ought to be left in you. You ought to fall on your face in holy fear. See, because if you fear God, you have nothing else to fear. Let me say that again. If you fear God, you've got nothing else to fear. Why do you think almost every time that God shows up or an angel shows up or the angel of the Lord shows up, the first words out of his mouth almost every single time is, fear not? What is implied is have no fear, your God is here. Have no fear, your answer is here. Have no fear, your breakthrough is here. Power is here, grace is here, miracles are here. The impossible becomes possible here. So you don't have to fear anything or anyone else when you hold the Lord in highest esteem. How many of you know he's got you? I said he's got you. He's your defender. He's got your back. He's got your going forth. He's your rear guard. He's your shield and your exceedingly great reward. Look at verse 10 with me. Suddenly, after 70 years, suddenly a hand touched me, which made me tremble on my knees and on the palms of my hands. Stop there for just a moment, because the verse prior, verse 9, tells us that Daniel's on a face to the ground. Daniel's in what appears to be a deep sleep. His face is on the ground, and then he says a hand touched him. And when that hand touched him, he came off face to the ground on the floor, and he came to his hands and his knees. The hand touched it. He's still shaking, he's still trembling, but now the hand touched it, and he's on all fours now. My family, when God touches your life, it is always to lift you. I said it's always to lift you. When God touches you, to lift you. Never to limit you, never to keep you down, never to put a cap on you, never to curb you or to hinder you or to hamper you or to reduce you or to restrict you. He lifts the lowly. He will lift you out of depression. He'll lift you out of lying in the dust. He'll lift you out of fear, out of defeat, out of exhaustion, out of discouragement. Verse 11 says this. And he said to me, "O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you." While he was speaking this word to me, I stood trembling. See, the book of Daniel tells us a plethora of times that Daniel was a man of understanding. He had great insight. Even Nebuchadnezzar found him to have amazing discernment and acumen. Daniel is a man of understanding, but this visitation, this appearance, this Christophany, this is something he does not understand. He's never seen anything like this before. Nothing like this has ever happened to him before. So never anything this kind of spiritual magnitude. So we fear what we don't understand. And by the way, the vision that he's about to receive goes on for 3 chapters. It is a vision of the end times, making the book of Daniel the only apocalyptic book in the Old Testament. Daniel is to the Old Testament what Revelation is to the New Testament. So the vision that he receives is scary. Oh, it's hopeful. It's victorious in the end. It is Daniel who writes, "The people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits." But there's tribulation. There is a radical ramping up of evil in the world. So, some would argue that Daniel saw our day. That we are at the beginning of the end. And that is actually something that we're going to discuss further this Wednesday night. We're going to start a new midweek series asking the question, are we living in the beginning of sorrows? So that's Wednesday night. You got to be here. That is a shameless commercial for Wednesday night. But the number one thing you need to know, when you are afraid, when you are confused, when you're encountering something you've never encountered before, when you're having an experience you've never had before, and you're afraid and you don't understand, whenever you don't know what is happening to you spiritually or otherwise, the number one thing you need to know is that you are greatly loved. You are greatly beloved. Oh, Daniel, man greatly beloved. Oh, insert your name, greatly beloved. Listen, insert your name, not just for fun, not just for a feel-good moment, but because it is true, because as far as the Bible is concerned, you are greatly loved. How many of you know you're loved with an everlasting love? You're loved by God and there's nothing you can do about it. You are loved by God the same in your worst moment on your worst day than you are in your best moment on your best day. In your worst moment on your worst day, you are just as loved by God the Father as God the Father loves God the Son. You're loved with a stubborn love. You're loved with a love that is patient and kind, that holds no record of wrong. You're loved with a love that will never fail. So now Daniel's on his feet. He went from his face to all fours. Now he's on his feet. He's still trembling though. He looks more like a man of paste and flour than a man of faith and power. Verse 12. Then he said to me, "Do not fear, Daniel. For from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words." I have come because of your words. My family, from a scriptural worldview, it is impossible to overemphasize the power of your words. You were made in the image and the likeness of a God who created everything seen and unseen with his words. He calls things that be not as though they were, and so do you. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat the fruit thereof. Listen, you can speak death or you can speak life over your marriage. You can speak death over your family, or you can speak life over your family. You can speak death over your finances, or you can speak life. You can speak death over your future, or you can speak life. And you can speak death over yourself, your self-talk, or you can speak life. And whatever you speak, it will bear fruit. It will produce. You can curse or you can bless. You can open the door to demons, or you can summon the angels of God with what you say. Are your words drawing God near, or are they drawing the devil near? Are your words attracting help, or are they a magnet for trouble? Are your words attracting good people to you, or are your words repelling good people from you? I have come because of your words. And then he goes on to say, and here's the first thing I want to tell you. From the first day, say it with me today, from the first day, say it again, from the first day. God heard you from the first day. From the first day you got on your knees, from the first day you set yourself to seek the Lord, from the first day you went off the grid and denied yourself, your words have been heard in heaven, your prayers have been heard by God. His ear has been open to your cry from the first day, because this is the confidence that we have in him. If we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if he hears us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have desired of him. Listen carefully. Not only was Daniel heard, but he was answered. Again, go back to verse 12. Then he said to me, do not fear, Daniel, from the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God. Your words were heard, and I have come because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. Here's the curtain being opened. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. For I had been alone there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision refers to many days yet to come. My family, spiritual warfare is real. Spiritual warfare is real. When the curtain gets pulled back, when the veil is removed, this is what we see. The prince of the kingdom of Persia. The kingdom of Persia was a physical place. It was a logistic reality. It was a geographical location, but there was a prince behind what we would see in the natural. Spiritual warfare is real. Principalities and powers and rulers of spiritual wickedness oppose God, oppose the things of God, and oppose the people of God. You see, Cyrus may have been king of Persia, but there was a prince of Persia. Jesus would one day say, the prince of this world has come, and he has nothing in me. Other places in the Bible, the enemy is called the prince of the power of the air. You see, the devil may be a prince, but Jesus is king. He is King of kings. He is Lord of lords. And the kingdom that Jesus is king over and the realm that the enemy is prince over are in two different neighborhoods. They are in two different leagues altogether. Did you ever notice there is no kingdom of the devil in scriptures? Want to know why? It's just called darkness. It's just called darkness. It's not the kingdom of darkness. It's just called darkness. You could call it the realm of darkness, but you can't call it a kingdom. See, the devil doesn't have a kingdom because he's not a king. He's the king of nothing. He's the king of no one. He rules over exactly nothing. So think about this. The devil's not a king, but you are. Oh yeah. I said the devil's not a king, but you are. You are a royal priesthood. Revelation 1:6, you have been made kings and priests unto your God. That's why you have authority over the wicked one. You have authority over the works of darkness. Your authority is in the name of the King, the only potentate. He is king of us kings, and over every king, he is sovereign over all. And that's why you have to exercise your authority. Speak words of life. Seek God with everything you've got. Because between the time in which your prayers are heard, which is the moment you utter them, which is also the same moment that your answer has been dispatched, but between the time you first pray and the time that your answer comes, there may very well be a delay. Now, the delay is not a denial. The delay is not a dead end. The delay is a fight. The delay is warfare. And it is not a coincidence that Daniel set himself like a laser beam to seek God for 3 whole weeks. And the Son of Man tells him there's been a fight in the heavenly realm for 21 days. That's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. And just for the fun of it, 3 weeks, 21 days, 7, 7, 7 will always beat 6, 6, 6. But day 1, Daniel's heard. Day 1, answers dispatched. And then there's a fight. All of a sudden, there's opposition. I could only imagine what that would be like. I want to see it one day. I want to see it on the big screen in heaven. But all of a sudden, here's the answer being dispatched, and here's somebody ready to fight. And obviously, he's a prince. He's a principality. There's a hierarchy in the realm of the spirit, and this one's pretty high, pretty nasty, pretty vicious. Who knows if he's got long talons and big teeth, maybe several rows of teeth. Who knows what? Maybe he's got 2 heads. I don't know, but I just know that he's there to oppose, and he's there to fight, and he's having some success. Fighting and stopping. No, you can't. And he's everywhere. He's fighting them on all these different levels. It's taken days. But then Michael shows up. What seems to be the problem? Michael must be huge. Michael must be buff. Michael must be ripped. And Michael shows up and pretty much says, "Excuse you?" My family, when you don't understand, when things didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted them to turn out, when you're confused, and yet you know there's more, focus. Set yourself to seek God. Don't look for the answer on the right or on the left or under this rock or from this source or that. Seek God. And when the answer doesn't come right away, maybe it's 21 days or 21 weeks or 21 years. Paul told Timothy, endure hardness as a good soldier. This is where you got to soldier up. This is where you've got to soldier on, where you wage good warfare, where you take up the whole armor of God. But you've got to know this, God is fighting for you. God is fighting for you. God is fighting for you, pushing back the darkness, lighting up the kingdom that cannot be shaken. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. The angels of God, which are never fat babies with wings, but they excel in strength, taking heed to the voice of his word. They're all ministering spirits sent forth to minister to the heirs of salvation. Listen, the delay is not denial. Your prayers never get derailed. You never go unheard. They may get opposed, but the enemy, listen to me carefully, they may get opposed because the enemy doesn't want you to be blessed. I said the enemy doesn't want you to be, he doesn't want you to be prosperous. He doesn't want you to have peace and confidence and courage. The enemy doesn't want you to have knowledge and understanding and insight and wisdom. He doesn't want you to have vision. He doesn't want you to be equipped with the plan, purpose, and power of God. Because if you are, that's evidence to him of his utter demise. See, if you've got that, you're armed and dangerous. If you've got that, you are a force to be reckoned with. The wicked one, the prince of this world, the prince of the power of the air. Listen carefully. He may fight, but he cannot win. He may knock you down, but he can never knock you out because the fight is fixed. Jesus won the victory and gave it to you. Thanks be unto God who always causes us to triumph. Your answer may get delayed, but you will not be denied. I said your answer may get delayed, but you will not be denied. Stay on your knees till God touches you. Stay on your knees till God lifts you. Stay on your knees till you get God's plan, till you get fresh vision. Stay on your knees till you get your marching orders. Stay on your knees and fight the good fight of faith. Stay on your knees till the healing manifests. Stay on your knees till the money comes. Stay on your knees till there's reconciliation and restoration and renewal and redemption. Stay on your knees till you get back on your feet again. Oh, listen, it's time for an awakening. It's time for us to have real spiritual understanding. It's time for us to see into the unseen and watch our God go to work for our good and his glory. Oh, it's time to believe and receive, to apply and appropriate a victory that Daniel didn't have, but you do have the victory of Calvary, the victory of the cross, the victory of the blood, the victory of an empty tomb. It is finished, that victory. And until God touches you afresh, and until he lifts you off the ground, until he shows up with power, with your answer in hand, and he will, until then, ask and keep on asking, seek and keep on seeking, knock and keep on knocking. Put your prayerful knees on the neck of the devil until your answer comes.